On today's show, in the Christmas spirit of giving, what trade should the Ottawa Senators give their fans? And what type of player should they target?
And we have a SensCentral Citizen. Today, it's Brody.
This is Brady Kachuk, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
You're Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome! You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators, the only daily podcast covering the Sens. On the outskirts of enemy territory, I'm Ross Levitan, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can get in with a big return on FanDuel. New customers who place a $5 bet will get started with $250 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. Today is Tuesday, December 24th. A happy Christmas Eve to all who celebrate. Pilsy, what's at the top of your Christmas wish list for the Ottawa Senators?
Well, I mean, for the team, Ross, a 7-game win streak. Maybe the new year we can get that going. But as far as players go, I've got two types of players that I'm eyeing, Ross. One forward and one goaltender.
Oh, you think the decor is okay?
Well, I think it's okay if we're using just the classic okay, fine, okay. But Ross, with the decor, I want to wait till Artem Zub comes back and give him a little bit of time before I go out picking and trying to change things. And hopefully Artem Zub can get back to form. And then with him back to form, you put him with Sandy and you get that nice shutdown pair going the way we know they can and have in the past. So the decor, I'm going to sit tight on for now.
Okay. I think teams, even with 7 defensemen, try to add an extra body here or there going down the stretch run. So I'm actually going to tell you my number one requirement for the Ottawa Senators is getting a defenseman. Now, I'm not as picky left shot or right shot. I just think they need another guy who can play minutes because you don't want to be in this situation again when Zub comes back where he gets hurt and all of a sudden Hamonick's playing 18, 20 minutes a game again. Fair. I do think they really need a defenseman going into the stretch run. Now, whether it's like Winnipeg adding Colin Miller last year, like a guy like that, doesn't have to be a guy like I know a lot of people are saying Rasmus Anderson, Mackenzie Weegar. Well, go look at the Calgary Flames who currently sit in a playoff spot. Those guys are not available.
And look at their salaries.
Unless it's a true hockey trade, which I think at this point you're looking on the back end. If Zub's healthy, you're just looking to add depth, which is something that they're clearly not confident in Matin Palo. Yeah. They called him up enough for practice, but they won't put him in a game.
And then Sabrango got called up, but also was not put in the game.
Yeah, exactly. So who are the types of players? A goalie and a forward, but what type?
So we've discussed the forward a little bit, and we get into it with our SensCentral Citizen Brody. I think like Chris Kreider obviously would be a type of guy, but we talked about it, the money and these teams being mortal enemies right now, the Rangers and Sens. I don't think we're going to see a trade happen there, so we can nix that. But as far as type of player goes, Ross, I want to find a guy in his mid to late 20s. So not a rookie, but also not an aged, grizzled vet. I want to find someone that can play with Timmy. That's most important. We need someone that play with Timmy. We need a finisher with some speed. He doesn't have to be, Noah Gregor, Connor McDavid-esque, but he's got to have speed that he can keep up with Timmy, and he doesn't force Timmy to slow the play down too much because Claude Giroux does that a little bit. I'm not suggesting take Claude Giroux off that line, but just add another speedster that can finish those plays that Timmy starts. And I think you're looking at a good spot, essentially a top six guy.
Okay. I think that's a reasonable thing. Guy who you're not afraid to play on your third line if you want to spread things out a little bit. Sixth. But a guy, basically a Matteo with better finishing ability. Like he
and a little more speed. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. I'm right with you there. I don't really want to name names on today's episode. I think it's not fair for a trade freeze going on. We don't want any soft tampering rumors here on Locked On
Especially
Senators.
With how big our influence is, Ross. If a player heard that we were talking about them in the Locked On Senators podcast, probably Christmas ruined because they are for sure getting traded.
Exactly. But that's not the case because we're looking at prototypes of players.
Yes.
And I would actually say speed is more important than finishing.
Okay.
Would you agree or disagree?
I would actually probably disagree, Ross, just
Okay.
because, look,
I would
Tim
point
Stu-
to Adam Gaudette. He's the finish. He's showing that he can finish, but he's not doing enough else to be a top 6 guy at the NHL. Adam Gaudette, we love you, buddy. Merry Christmas. But at 775, you're doing amazing. You got an A grade, but playing with Tim Stützle, you need different type of skill set.
Yep, and that's fair. But I would, and tell me if you disagree, I would classify Adam Gaudette as a prototypical bottom 6 guy, right? Like if you throw him on any team, I don't think anyone's inserting him in the top 6 or even middle 6 right away. Like I think he's a bottom 6
team.
guy. Yeah, yeah, fair. Certain teams in our division might be doing that. But the thing is, Ross, Tim Stützle is allergic to shooting the puck. But man, can he rack up assists, and man, can he transition the puck into the offensive zone. So I'm trying to find someone with a little bit more finishing ability and a little bit more well-rounded than Adam Gaudette, I guess. But you do it. That is a fair counter argument. I will give you that.
I don't know how you make the money work, but I'll throw a name at you.
Okay.
2 seconds after I say I wouldn't. Taylor Hall.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Although, Ross, the Ottawa Senators are not going for the first overall pick this year, so I don't think Taylor Hall makes sense.
Dude, Taylor Hall's in the final year of his contract. It's a $6 million cap hit, but you got to assume Chicago's got a ton of cap space. If you make it worth their while, they should be able to eat some money on just the end of this year. He's shown he can play with good players his whole career. He's a guy I'd like to target. Add him to the list.
Yeah.
Add him to the list. He's got 18 points in 34 games with the Chicago Blackhawks.
But follow along Taylor Hall's career, Ross, and almost every single year, every team he goes to ends up getting the first overall pick other than the Boston Bruins. So you got to be careful with that.
You definitely do. And not a whole lot of playoff experience for him either.
Yeah, seriously. So those are the forwards. As far as goaltending goes, Ross,
someone who could stop the puck in the behind Ullmark.
That is the type of guy I'm looking for. But I think I'm not confident Forsberg can turn it around. And I wish I could be optimistic Pilsy during the holidays. Forsy, great guy. He's been a good soldier for this team, but I'm not sure he's going to be able to turn it around. And I think you need to find a guy with 1 year on his contract, low money, and that is going to come in knowing that they're the backup behind Linus Ullmark. Like, again, I think it's easier for me to throw a couple names out rather than goalie types. But look at Scott Wedgwood. The Colorado Avalanche acquired him from Nashville, and he's been pretty solid for them so far in more of a tandem situation now that they've acquired Blackwood, Wedgwood. They're the big tree guys over there in Colorado, I guess. But
I'm Wedgwood, the lumberjack here. Come on.
Yeah, you got the lumberjack jacket on. Or another guy, and Red Wings fans, don't jump on me here. This is just the type of guy, but an Alex Lyon would make a lot of sense.
You're about to say Cam Talbot.
No, not Cam Talbot.
Get the Ghostbusters mask back out.
Yeah, but Alex Lyon, that type of guy, he's got 1 year on his deal at $900,000, and plus they have 7 goalies, I'm pretty sure. So I'm pretty sure once they know they're not going to be competing in meaningful games later on in the stretch, they're going to want to move some of those contracts and allow opportunities for Sebastian Cossa likely to get some backup time behind Cam Talbot. I don't think they're going to trade Cam Talbot. I think it's working out for him there. But that's the type of guy I'm looking for, Ross. A guy that has NHL experience, but also kind of knows that at this point in his career, he's going to be a backup and doesn't have a lot of money or term attached to his contract.
Yeah, that's fair. I agree with you there, and I want to hear what the fans think, the citizens out there. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah as well. Starts on Christmas Day. That's a rare one, but we're enjoying the Ottawa Senators being 8-2 in their last 10, and it is officially the holiday break. The Ottawa Senators will be in a playoff spot when the season resumes. 1 point up on Pittsburgh after the Penguins won last night. It was them or Philly who was going to be right on Ottawa's tail. Ottawa's got 2 games in hand over the Pittsburgh Penguins. On the other side, we've got our SensCentral Citizen. Great conversation with Brody Appotive, so we're looking forward to that and more as we gear up for Jeopardy tomorrow on Locked On Senators. Pilsy, always fun to do this with you, man. I know you're not going to be here after the Citizen when I wrap the show. You want to say Merry Christmas to the people?
Yeah, Merry Christmas, everybody. And Sens fans, we find ourselves in a position we're not used to, being in a playoff spot. So just enjoy that. And hopefully there's some young Sens fans that are getting some Sens jerseys, Sens merch, Sens memorabilia under the tree. So Merry Christmas.
We'll tweet that out tomorrow. I want to see all of the great Christmas Sens swag. Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. If you love sports, you're going to love Prize Picks, the best place to turn your sports knowledge into real money. Whether it's hockey, football, or any of your favorite sports, Prize Picks makes it easy to get in on the action. You can now win up to 1,000 times your money on Prize Picks. Plus, this holiday season, they're giving away $30+ million in rewards during Picksmas and offering 2 free picks in December. And when your picks hit, Prize Picks makes it easy to cash out. You can get your money as fast as 15 minutes. This week on Prize Picks, I'm looking at the hockey board. I'm looking for Brady Tkachuk to get more than 4 shots on goal and Tim Stützle to get more than 1 assist. It's so easy to make my picks and have fun with friends while potentially cashing out fast. Download the app and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 instantly. Prize Picks, run your game.
All right, we now welcome on this week's SensCentral Citizen, a guy I've known since the tender age of 2 years old. Sandy Hill hockey alumni, East Ottawa Voyageurs, Brody Appotive. Welcome to the pod, brother. How you doing?
Great to be here, guys. It's a real honor to be on with you. You know, not many Sens citizens can probably say they're joining after the Sens have gone 8-2 and they're past 10. So I'm feeling good. Vibes are tough loss last night, but vibes are still high and feeling good. Great to be with you guys.
Hey, great to have you. And you're right. I don't think that there's been a run since we started this podcast where the team's been playing as well as they have. What to you's been the most impressive part of this streak?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think honestly, they're just not caving in, like mentally. Just for example, last night, I think, when was it? Ridley Gray got a 4-minute penalty in the second period, kind of like 3 minutes left. I think in years past, that team is giving up 2 goals to McDavid on the power play, and they're going into the third down, 4-1. So I think they're just, staying within their game, playing hard, and not, just giving up, caving in. Because I think over the past number of games, they've gotten some confidence with Ullmark playing so well. They kind of believe that, they can sneak out games again. So I think that kind of like mental side of it is definitely the biggest takeaway that I can see.
So, Brody, we know you've known Ross for quite a while now, as he said in the intro, but how did you become an Ottawa Senators fan?
I don't think it's a crazy story. Knowing Ross since I've been 2, I'm obviously born and raised in Ottawa, the greatest city in the world. My family, I want to say, had maybe like quarter season tickets back in the day. So, it kind of came naturally to me. My dad, honestly, growing up, he would like pick me up from school. We'd go to the Canada Centrum Mall. We'd have dinner at, Jack Astor's or Baton Rouge on game days, like at 4:30, 4:45. We'd have dinner. We'd go to the game, like warm-ups at, 6:30, be there real early. Watch Alfie and Fisher, all those guys. And then, I would do that. And that's kind of how I got into it. My dad, we were unfortunately one of those families that would leave the game a little early to beat the traffic. I would be crying most of the time, like begging my dad to stay. And then eventually we made this deal. Like if the game was within 1 goal, we can stay the whole game. And if it was, the difference was greater than 1 goal, we'd have to leave early. And in those days,
so you're a big puck line guy.
Pizza line area, like we would be dominating teams. So most days we'd have to leave early. But that's kind of how I started with the Sens.
I love that. Well, I'd imagine those early years are like late 90s, early 2000s. So you mentioned Alfie, Mike Fisher. Was there other players that for you just resonated with? Like, yeah, this guy's an Ottawa Senator.
My favorite player growing up was Martin Havlat, Mach 9. He was just my guy. I feel that, Ross, as you know, him and I probably had a lot of similarities on the ice, all offense, all dangles, no back check. So he was my guy growing up. So I think, Marty Havlat was my favorite player.
Hey, you just turn to your dad. It's like, hey, look how he's up at the blue line. Like, that's how I got to play, right?
That is how I play. Yeah, he was great, though. I mean, he was like such a joy to watch, and he was flying out there.
So much, man. Like, he's low key. Had one of the best up and coming starts to a Senator's career. Like 42 points as a rookie, then 50, then 59, then had 68 points in 68 games in the 03-04 season. And like, it sucked. He got hurt for a long term in 05-06, and the team was already so stacked. And then you're like, what could this have been? Marty Havlat is one of the three right wingers. It was him, Alfredson, and Hossa all on the same team. Like, what an embarrassment of riches. And I always think back to that series against Tampa where he had 10 points in 5 games. Like, yeah, offensively, there weren't a lot of guys like him, and he could just fly out there.
Yeah, he was awesome.
And I know you hate goalies as a rule. We don't have to get too deep into that as a goalie-friendly show, but were you a Lalim guy back in the day?
I mean, who wasn't a Lalim guy back in the day? Until Joe Nieuwendyk, and then everyone turned on Lalim. But, I mean, to be fair, Lalim, he was great. I mean, what was it, the series against the Flyers? He went like he gave up no goals in the whole series or something crazy like that. Like
3 straight shutouts in that series.
Like Lalim gave us good goaltending day in, day out. He was a great, he did everything he had to do. And then obviously one game just kind of turned his career, at least for Sens fans. And that's obviously tough to have that game in Game 7 against the Leafs. But until then, who wasn't a Lalim fan?
So Lalim, number 2 to Craig Anderson right now. What I was leading you into with that kind of storyline is, where do we see Ullmark all time? Like, are you sold on this guy for the next 5 years that by the end of his contract, he's going to be right in the mix with those two as the best goalie in Sens history?
It's hard not to think that. And, to be fair, it's a pretty low bar for Sens goalies, since the beginning. Like, Emery, Lalim, Hasek, I guess you can throw in there for the 30 games he played, but we're not an abundance of riches of goalies in Sens history. But Ullmark, and especially after the last 5 years of disaster in the nets, Ullmark's looking real solid, and he's just giving them a chance to win every night, which I think all Sens fans, that's the only thing that we've asked for over the last 5 years. Like, we don't need all-star goalie, we don't need Vezina Trophy winner, we just need average. Just give us a league average and like we'll be fine. And Ullmark obviously has given us more than that, and that turns into a 6-game win streak. So it's hard not to see Ullmark right up there with those guys if he continues to play like this for the next number of years.
Yeah, he's been awesome, and we're praying that he's back when the Sens visit Ross in Winnipeg. Brody, it sounds like you got out to a decent amount of Sens games as a kid. So what are some of the biggest memories you have? I know you're a big Havlat guy, but what are some of the memories that stick out to you growing up?
Yeah, this is going to sound bad, but the early days, if you want like the actual memories I have of being at Sens games, Jeff Friesen real comes to mind. Like, I think that's my first vivid memory of being at the rink. And I was like in the end where Friesen scored, and it was like you just saw the play develop. I think it was honestly Havlat didn't back check properly, and then Redden and like Rakunik both went to the same guy. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it became a 2-on-1. I'm so mad you're making me look this up right now.
I'm pretty sure Redden and Rakunik went to the same guy, and then the New Jersey guy passed it to Friesen, and then it went backhand shelf on Levine. Yeah. And that was, I remember I cried the whole way home, like freaking devastated. So that's an early memory.
Your dad's like, see, told you we should have left the game early.
I know, seriously. Ricard Harrison, like when the Sens were playing the Leafs, I think it was the year before maybe, and he got the 5-minute penalty in Game 6, I want to say. The Sens were up 2-0 and then blew it because this guy cross-checked someone from behind. That was in Ottawa. That was a horrible experience. This is like dark. I'm just, we have a dark history in the playoffs. But
there's how the Rakunik played 2-on-1.
There it is. Look, 2 minutes left in the third period. Great time to do that.
Yeah.
And then I was there for Pominville.
Sick memory,
going around
dude.
Alfie. Yeah, Pominville going around Alfie. That was tough. But the good thing, I was there for Mike Fisher's OT goal in Game 6 against the Leafs before the Nieuwendyk disaster. That was probably the best memory I have being in the building. But yeah, and then the 07 Cup run, that was amazing. Like the city was electric. The Sens were, dominating teams in the first 3 rounds. Like that was just a great time to be a Sens fan. We were in grade 9, I think, right, Russ? Yeah, grade 9, like Elgin Street, the Sens Mile, going to games. Like that was incredible. That was, the first time the Sens really, fulfilled their, expectations, where after so many years of disappointments and, Leafs losses, we came together, and it's too bad it didn't work out, but that was a real good Anaheim team that we were up against.
Yeah, that was tough. When's the last playoff game you went to, Brody?
The last playoff game I went to was Game 6, Pittsburgh in 2017. I think that's actually the last playoff game that was in Ottawa. Is that right?
And that they won, yeah.
And that they won. I was with my friend Harrison, also an Ottawa guy. And I think at that time we'd just been pummeled in Game 5, I want to say, 7-1.
Yep.
And then there was all this talk about the attendance in Ottawa, and things weren't going right, and we wasn't going to be a sellout, and the Sens were going to lose in Game 6. And I'm telling you, I've been in that building a number of times, and that third period in that building was probably the loudest I've ever heard it, other than when Jordan Eberle scored in the semis in the World Juniors. But the third period, the Sens fan really just willed the team to win that game. Hoffman scored that beauty slap shot to make it 2-1 in the third period, and the rest of the way, the Penguins were all over us, and we just, the crowd was on its feet yelling the entire third period. And that was a great memory. And, since then it's been 7 years of misery, but we're going to get back there one day, and it'll be great to see the new guys, see what the crowd's all about in the playoffs. Because say what you will about Sens fans, in the season, we may not be, the loudest bunch in the CTC, but in playoffs, we flip the script, and I think it's an intimidating building to play in, and Sens fans turn it up a notch in the playoffs.
Hope you're enjoying our chat with Brody. We'll get right back to it, but first, Pillsy's got a word from one of our favorite sponsors.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get into the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W. I love betting on the over-under, same game parlays, and finding some fun futures. Not only can you bet on who's going to win the game, but FanDuel has bets for which players will score touchdowns, how many points each team will score, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Dude, I knew that Andy was sick that game, but that 2-1 win in Game 6, Anderson made 45 saves, and I'd imagine a lot of them were in the third period. They got outshot 46-30 in that game against the Penguins. Hoffman scored a minute 34 into the third, and they just said, hey, let's just rely on our goaltender for the rest of the way. I'm so jealous you're at that game, Brody. What an absolute experience to be at. I haven't been to a Sens playoff game since 2013. So I'm hoping that this is the year they flip the script on that. And Pillsy's never been to a Senators playoff game. We gotta fix that up in a hurry, because I'm getting goosebumps just with you reminiscing about what the building sounds like.
You guys deserve it. You guys,
We need it. We don't just
you
deserve
guys
it.
deserve
We need it.
playoff game.
I want to ask you though, Brody, that you've got to check out a lot of Sens playoff games, but what's your favorite Sens playoff series? I love getting into this one with people.
That's a good question. I actually wasn't in. I was on exchange in university for it, but it's hard not to say the Habs Sens series in, what was it, 2013?
Yeah.
Nice.
The game 3, like line brawl, that whole thing. Pretty sure like Brendan Press called Paul McLean a walrus in that series. Is that the series
Paul McLean called a timeout with a minute and a half
yeah,
left in
I
a
think
6-1 game.
Is that the series like Greiba destroyed Lars Eller and it was like player 82 or whatever?
Or 81.
80, yeah.
Rafael Diaz made the pass.
Yeah. That series had it all, like there was on the ice, off the ice. I think the Sens fans, as I said, playoff Sens fans, like the Habs fans were drowned out a lot in that series. I think Ottawa kind of like took over the building, at least what it sounded like on TV.
Definitely. And game 4 in that series, Corey Conacher scored.
So I think that
30 seconds left in game 4 to tie it. That was a sick series. We need that back so badly.
That one stands out. What do you think, Pilsy? What's the one for you?
Mine, and it's recency bias, but the Boston series in 2017 was just so electric. I mean, the Clark MacArthur story, Dion Phaneuf scoring that overtime goal, Carlson to Hoffman, it was just an incredible series for me. So I always say the Boston series, but I know there's other great answers that other people have brought up too. Obviously, the Buffalo series when the Sens go to the Cup. I think the Montreal one you reference is amazing too, but it's always the Boston one for me.
Yeah, and also the fact the Leafs have lost 3 or 4 series to Boston, and then we go in and just beat them in the first try. Yep. That was good, and a little revenge on Zdeno Chara 8 years later after he leaves us. And I like that answer. And I already brought up my other favorite one, the Tampa one in 05-06, where you had Chara fighting LeCavalier and just pulled his arm up and said, I could if I wanted to.
Oh, yeah.
But I'll let you off the hook in that one. So many good options, man. And like you said, we need to get back there this year. So let's get to the team this year. What's the one area you're looking to improve? I already asked what's impressed you, and I agree. The mental strength and resolve that they've shown is much more clear than it has been in the past. But if you're making a Christmas wish list, Brody, for this team, what would be at the top of it?
Yeah, Christmas wish list. I think I ragged on him pretty good when I was on the postcast for the Rangers game, but a replacement for our friend Travis Hamonic would be nice. I think that is kind of, Artem Zub, when he comes back, that will be a nice addition because Hamonic, he's a good guy. He's trying, sometimes when you rag on players, it's for a lack of effort. And, that can obviously be frustrating with Hamonic. He's giving it all. You can't blame him. He's trying his best. He's just clearly just not at the level where he's inserted into the lineup right now, which kind of sucks, but hopefully Zub will come back and fill that role. The second line, I think we need, David Perron being out, maybe long-term, it doesn't, who knows? But I think, the line of, it used to be Stützle, Giroux, and Gaudette, that. I don't know. Adam Gaudette, don't get me wrong. He's obviously been amazing and 13 goals or whatever, but he's not driving a line. And I think Timmy needs better complementary pieces to play with him. And Giroux, can't fault Giroux, amazing player, super smart, but also at 36 or 37, he's not driving a line either. And so Tim needs to play with, at least one of Tkachuk or Batherson. And when you have those guys with Tim, you kind of have a less, prominent second line. So maybe another top 6 forward, depending on what David Perron's health is like. But I think that would, balance out the team pretty well. Because the third and fourth lines, early on in the season, we were obviously harping on depth scoring and, the new guys, Amadio and Gregor and all these guys, and Cousins. But lately, these guys are, carrying the team. And so it's hard to think about separating those guys after the Christmas break.
So this holiday season, Joe, is here. What was it? The Build a Bear. Well, let's play Build a Line Mate for Tim Stützle. What attributes would you be hoping to have as a guy to play with 18?
I think it's hard not to say, just put him with Brady and Claude Giroux. Those guys historically over the last number of years have generally been pretty great when they've been together. And so, I think those are the ideal line mates. And then you put Norris and Batherson together with whoever, like, right now it's Ridley Gregg or maybe David Perron. Like, unfortunately, I don't think those guys are second line guys. So that's why I'm saying, another top 6 forward would be helpful for this team. But I think ideally those are kind of how you slot everyone together. And then, you have Pinto with Cousins and Amadio and then the fourth line. But I don't know. What do you think, Russ?
I agree. I think in a perfect world, and we've heard this name thrown out there just from Sens fans, I don't think it's going to happen. But a guy like JJ Peterka in Buffalo, and you think you could have just drafted him instead of Yarventi. But obviously that's the same conversation as you could have just drafted Chikrin instead of Logan Brown and saved yourself 25 draft picks. But like, to me, it's a finisher. Like, you need a shooter on a line with Timmy because he just refuses to shoot the puck sometimes. And it's almost Jason Spezza syndrome where you're like, dude, you have a great shot. Like, just use it. So I think I'd like to see more of a shooter, but a guy who can skate and shoot. How about that? Because Gaudette's a shooter, but can't always keep up the same way as Timmy. Like, when he's leaving the zone at 100 miles an hour, I want a guy who can create 2-on-1s and odd man situations with him. And it's just not happening when you have two of the slowest guys on the team on his wings. So you need even Batherson and Tkachuk. Like, Ottawa's got a lot of speed down the middle with Pinto, Norris, and Stützle, but I think a speedy winger would be my number one. Like, if we could wind back the clock and bring back a 25-year-old Marty Havlat, like, that's the perfect type of player that I'd like to see with Tim Stützle. So I don't know who's available that fits that mold beyond JJ Peterka, who, again, I don't know if he's available, and if so, he'd cost a pretty penny. But that's where I'd go. Pillsy, what about you? What's your perfect line mate for Tim Stützle attribute-wise?
Honestly, Peterka is probably it. And Ross, I don't know. Like, you start looking at the Capo Caco trade, like, it might not cost as much as Sens fans think when teams are struggling and they just want to shake things up. So that would be a guy I'm targeting for sure. And especially, let's get Timmy another German. Then Martian can change his phrase to give it to the Germans. And they can finish things off there. But I want to get some positivity in here as well. Brody, who of the Sens players this season has impressed you the most?
Yeah, another good question. I think Tim Stützle, has maybe not the last few games, but definitely as on the season as a whole, I think he's taken his game to a new level. And we've always known he's this, insanely skilled, talented player, but in the past, maybe he hasn't had, the best reputation for defensive play. And, obviously the whole diving, kind of complaining to the refs, that whole thing. But I think this year, I think there's this stat of, like, what is it? Him, Tkachuk, and Batherson have like the most goals and hits or points or some combination of that. And
for players with at least 25 points, they're 1, 2, 3 in hits.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks. So you can see that he's zoning in on his defensive play a lot more than he has in the past. I think he's hitting a lot more than he has in the past. I don't think he's diving. He's definitely falling on his, he's definitely falling down every game, but can't stay on his skates. But I don't think he's diving. So I think he, has definitely shown the most improvement. I hope that he's champion winning teams, like number one centers, like, I don't know, Jonathan Toews, Patrice Bergeron, like Kopitar, like these are, dogs in the playoffs, like 200-foot players that are just, so tough. Barkov, so tough to play against. And Timmy, historically, I don't know if he's that guy, but I think this year he's trying to be that guy more. And so I just want him to keep doing that and keep, rounding out his game as a whole. So I think, he's impressed me a lot. Thomas Chabot, like, he has taken his game to a whole new level. He's not a liability out there anymore like he was in the last few years. And I think I love Nick Jensen. Like, the two of them together, I think Nick Jensen is the perfect complement for Chabot. I just wish, the only thing I have to say about Chabot is that guy must have the most block shots in the whole NHL. And I don't mean him blocking the shots, like his shots getting blocked on the blue line. Every single shot he takes is blocked. He cannot hit the net or get anywhere close. And it bugs me. And his stick check, like his flailing, he gets walked so much. He's just flipping his stick trying to get guys that go around him. But aside from that, my only two criticisms, I think he's taken his game to a whole new level and playing up to his contract, which is which is great to see.
Yeah, no doubt. A lot of years trying to find the right partner for Thomas Chabot. So now you're saying it's time to find the right partner for Jake Sanderson, so we can actually have a little balance here in the lineup. Final question for me, Brody. Really appreciate you jumping on. We'll definitely be doing a boots on the ground report with you as the Ottawa Senators are heading to the tri-state area. I don't even know if we mentioned, but you're a New York City Sens fan at this point. You're down at the rink. We had you on the postcast after that 2-1 loss earlier this year where the Senators dominated on the shot clock, and it felt like dominated the game. Igor Shesterkin stood tall. But what's been your favorite experience at a road rink watching the Ottawa Senators?
In New York or just
wherever?
Yeah, honestly, we were a few friends of me, my wife Michelle, and my two friends who you probably know, Ross, Mike Levine and Mike Rosenblum. We were at the game where Tkachuk fought Trouba at center ice at MSG. And I think Tkachuk tied it with 10 seconds left in the third and then won it in overtime and tried to walk off the ice. It's hard to beat that in MSG as a road fan. And not going to lie, we basically got in a fight with the guys behind us because we were definitely rubbing it in their face. Like we were going at it the whole game. And then we won it in overtime. That was amazing. That was real nice. So that's probably the best road experience that I've had. At least that comes to mind.
Were they saying, were those Rangers fans just saying how badly they wish Brady Tkachuk was on their team?
Yeah. They were. Larry Brooks was right behind us.
Yeah. That's actually, hey, open up the story. It was actually Larry Brooks you almost fought.
That's good.
Love that. Pills, you got a final one?
Yeah. I mean, you can't beat. It's going to be tough to beat that game, so that's a good answer. Final question for me. As of now, the Ottawa Senators sit in a playoff spot. We've been talking about the playoffs a lot in this interview. Who would your hand-picked, chosen opponent be for the first round of the playoffs if the Ottawa Senators got in?
Toronto Maple Leafs, baby.
Yes, let's go.
Like, why not, I feel like all the mental side of it and like the voodoo and all that crap, like that would all be on Toronto's side. Sens would have no expectations. And it kind of just seems like the old, like a flipping of the script of, the series in the past when the Sens were, top dogs in the league and the Leafs were this gritty kind of pesky team that, just kept beating us. And that would be the icing on the cake to keep the Leafs from going past the first round or, doing anything substantial, like with their whole postseason thing. Like if the Sens would beat them in the first round, that would be real nice. And it'd be, that would be my first choice, I think.
And you like the Sens odds there? I mean, 4 straight wins in Toronto as well.
Yeah, why not? Like the Leafs, if we win one of those first 2 games in Toronto, the whole mind games, we'd have Brady Tkachuk against Matthews, Marner. Like, yeah, it would be that'd be real nice. I think we have better goaltending. Like, I don't know. The Leafs are obviously great. Don't get me wrong, but in the playoffs, they haven't proven it lately. So that'd be my number one.
And so that would probably be, imagine it's the 2-3 matchup in the Atlantic Division would be my favorite. But now I'm getting so far ahead of myself. Let's just get in on the 8th wild card and hope what happens. Hey, part of me is hoping it's the Devils because we'll be staying with you in Manhattan, heading to a game there for sure. So
that would be fun too.
Oh, man. So it's January 21st at Madison Square Garden, the 19th against the Devils. We'll be chatting with you that weekend, Brody. Really appreciate you coming on, and we'll do this again in about a few weeks.
Sounds great, guys. Thanks for having me. And if I could just say one thing to finish this off, just want to say that you guys do an incredible job with this podcast. It's been a tough 7 years. You guys are grinding day in, day out, but the content you guys are producing is second to none. Big service to Sens fans. We all appreciate what you guys do, and keep going. And eventually, we'll be in the CTC together for a playoff game. So here's hoping to that.
All right, it's a Christmas miracle. Pilsy is back with us. We just finished recording the Sens Jeopardy you will see tomorrow. Pilsy, how fired up are you for everyone to get to experience the game show that is Jeopardy with our host, Mark Hamad?
Oh, it was an absolute blast. Yeah, we had some great questions. Even, Ross, a couple questions that stumped all three of us, which was very surprising. The bonus question was awesome. And the final Jeopardy question, well, I'll leave that as a tease because it's a good one that not everyone got, and some people exceeded expectations.
All right. Happy holidays to everybody. We will drop tomorrow's episode maybe as early as 11 o'clock tonight. So
Ooh.
Stay tuned for that. We just want everybody to travel safe, spend time with family, eat all the amazing food that you can. And we will, of course, be back with you, not only for a Wednesday show, the Jeopardy that we mentioned, but we also have Scott Wheeler for a World Junior preview and a reminder that for all Team Canada World Junior games, please consider taking the Glebe Central Pub shuttle, $20 round trip. Fantastic way to get to and from the CTC and beat the traffic. The bus leaves an hour and 15 minutes before the game, and it'll take you back 15 minutes after the game, right to the heart of the Glebe at 779 Bank Street, which is also walking distance from TD Place Arena, the other venue for the World Juniors. It's been since 2009 since the World Juniors have been in Ottawa, so pack the barn and make sure the IIHF knows that Ottawa is the perfect host city so we can see these types of events here more and more. It's always an amazing atmosphere at the CTC, especially let's get it going for Team Canada. Team Canada shuttles from the GCP. The vibes will be absolutely free. Next time you see us will be for Jeopardy with Martian and Mark Hamad. For today, we say goodbye. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.